Welcome to this episode of Pottawattamie County Routes. I am Todd Studer, and as you can tell from the background, we are back at the Masonic Temple in Council Bluffs. Today is Burgers for Blue, where law enforcement and staff are getting treated to a lunch here by the Masons, and it's a Kabaya Lodge 631. That's why I'm wearing the Kabaya shirt today. So this is Ryan DeVault, and he is a state trooper. You are...
That's correct. I'm a public resource officer for District 3.
Yeah, so you do these, you travel around quite a bit.
Yeah, we have
a lot of people.
9 counties in southwest Iowa that I help represent, whether it be from a media standpoint or maybe going to schools and doing educational programs, to displays. And then in the summertime, I get to follow the RAGBRAI bicycle ride all the way across the state of Iowa.
You're following
help direct traffic at intersections to make sure motorists and bikes don't tangle.
Oh, that's an adventure every year.
Yeah.
I have worked a couple of the RAGBRAI stops
Gotcha.
in my life, and also some of the pass-through towns as well. It is a moving city, just going across the state, and as I've heard it described before, it is one big pie smorgasbord.
It is. It's amazing. I don't think I really knew until I worked RAGBRAI just how much pie is sold. There was a small town in northern Iowa a few years back that they had, I don't know, the little old ladies at a church, I don't remember what congregation it was, they had made, tons and tons of pies, and they completely sold out by like noon. Still had people rolling in wanting to know where to find pie. So I think it's a great source of energy for the riders when they start riding and cycling down the road, and obviously it tastes good as well.
The quick side story to that, I grew up in northwest Iowa, and my little town that I grew up in was a pass-through town, and local ladies at the church were trying to raise money for put a new roof on the church. Yep. They sold handballs.
Oh.
And they were selling 3 handballs on a stick for $5, and I believe they made over $10,000.
Wow. Yeah. No, it's definitely, those people do come in and support local and love to try obviously new things. Many of the riders come from not only other states but other countries. It's quite the event. Let's just say that.
Well, and also out there on those county roads, which mostly it's seldom they're on a state road.
Yeah,
right?
they try to avoid state roads just because of the volume of traffic.
Right.
They try to keep those on county roads.
But on those county roads and some state roads too, there is a proposal right now that I don't think is law yet, but is actually boosting the speed limit a little bit.
Yes, yeah. And to my knowledge, I don't think it has passed the House and the Senate. Now the legislative session is over, and I know that that's been pushed to the governor's desk. And to my awareness, I don't believe that has been signed yet. I guess I don't have any indications on why it won't be, but. It's definitely proposed and waiting on a governor's signature.
Are we talking 55 to 60? What are we talking?
Correct. Yeah. Any of your secondary road 55-mile-an-hour speed limits now will bump up to that 60 miles per hour. I know there was some talk about, oh man, think of the amount of signs that are going to have to be replaced. Right. Well, in reading that code section and how it was written, they're going to allow them basically an overlay sticker on some of the signs until they have the opportunity to obviously replace every sign throughout the state. So,
well, I guess
obviously
it would be
a cheaper, more cost-effective way to do it. And chances are, they put the overlays on road construction areas all the time, so you really probably won't be able to tell the difference anyway once it's the overlay or the sticker, I guess, is put on.
Well, all those signs have a natural lifespan anyway, right. So until it comes up that the sign actually does need to be replaced, this is should it go through? We're not 100% certain.
Not 100% certain, but
it's going to go through.
It's obviously out there. So,
was there a position at all from the troopers about?
We were not in favor of that.
Yeah.
Simply because we already see. I think probably everybody could agree that the posted speed limit and what traffic travels on those roads is probably not not what the limit actually says currently. So, our fear is obviously that just increases that little cushion that people think that they have when it comes to a speed limit. And then obviously the dangers that are associated with raising speed limits are a concern that the Iowa State Patrol has. So,
well, a lot of these roads are straight, but not all of them. And yes, there typically is posted speed limits on the curves and places like that. And this is something that I recently learned about this. And it's not always about how safely can you take the curve. Sometimes it's because there's a lane over there that you need to have time if somebody pulls out. And that's why, even though you can think, well, I can take this curve at 45 and it says 25. Well, it's because there's a driveway.
Yes, there's other circumstances that play into it. And I think that was kind of our concern as well, is depending on what area of the state you're in. You get up in northern Iowa, and there's parts of northern Iowa you can see for a long ways. So visibility is not an issue. But then you get in, like you just said, there's areas of curves, and you get crop at the right time of the year that is at intersections. Mm-hmm. That makes it harder to see. So I think there was a lot of geographical issues that came into play. And then obviously Iowa being a huge agriculture state, we now have UTV, ATVs that are intermingling with traffic. So all of those things together, we're not really fond of the idea of raising those speed limits, because there's agricultural equipment that is traveling at a much lesser speed than 55 as it currently sits. And now if that bumps up to 60, now we're talking, 5 mile an hour. Looking at the number, it doesn't mean much, but when it comes to your car's ability to brake, if you need to brake, and just reacting and getting yourself in a position to try to avoid a crash and not be in a crash, the faster you're going, obviously you need to increase your following distance. And then there's obviously those issues of reacting and how quickly can you react. Now, if you're going faster, is that going to become an issue? And it's one of those that it kind of hit at a bad time. Maybe there's no good time for this proposed increase, but last year we had 259 traffic fatalities in the state of Iowa, which was the lowest we'd been in over 100 years. So it's kind of one of those we're afraid we might go the other direction and see an increase, which we'd worked many, many years to get our traffic count, our fatality count across the state down below under 300. That's been a goal for, it seems like 5-6 years anyway, that we've been pushing some initiatives, speed being one of those, excessive speed, impaired driving, distracted driving, and then seatbelt usage. We believe those 4 kind of pillars will get our traffic fatalities under that 300 count. And last year we did that. So we're kind of a little worried that some of those things might actually increase the fatality number again, which we were hoping to keep driving it lower and obviously create new goals. But I don't know what that will look like now if that is signed into law.
Looking for something fun June 27th? Head to Quaker Steak and Lube in Council Bluffs for Wheels of Courage from 11 to 2. Check out classic cars, hot rods, muscle cars, and more while supporting a great cause. Registration is only $20, and all proceeds benefit the Jenny Edmondson Foundation Cancer Center Charitable Patient Care Fund. Judging starts at noon with awards at 1 o'clock, trophies in 17 categories. For details or to register, visit jehfoundation.org. If you have a leak, a clogged drain, or even if you're planning a big remodel, Waldstein Plumbing in Council Bluffs has you covered. With fast, reliable service and expert craftsmanship, handling everything from small repairs to major installations. They're locally owned and trusted and take pride in doing the job right the first time. Residential or commercial, big or small, when plumbing problems strike, they're the ones to call. Visit waldsteinplumbing.com. You talked about distracted driving. Most of the time that has to do with those cell phones. Correct. And the hands-free law went into effect and then went fully into effect for, all right, now fines are being written and tickets are being issued for that. How have you seen any results from that yet? Is it too early to tell?
Yeah, we're obviously we're coming up on July 1, which that was when we were allowed to start writing. January we were allowed to start writing citations. It went into law July of 25. We had to write warnings from July of 25 through January of 26. In that time frame, I know statewide, that's not just the State Patrol, there were over 11,000 warnings written for the hands-free violation during that 6-month kind of grace period that they gave everybody. And then since January 1 of 2026, so January, February, March, April, 4 months, I think we're, as a whole, law enforcement throughout the state, we're over like 3,600 citations I think, and about 3,000 warnings as well. So, lots and lots of violations. I think every one of us can agree it's a problem, right?
Yeah.
It was a law that we pushed for many, many years just because we knew it was a problem. I think you and I maybe talked last year kind of on this topic, and I always said my fix was just to truly save lives, let's make it where cell phones are disabled other than to place a phone call and have your mapping system if you're going over 25 miles per hour. That's kind of my quick fix. Like,
Right.
hey, you can't physically get on your phone because nothing is going to be able to be used. You can't get on social media. You can't get on the internet. That a lot of people don't agree with that statement because if you're in the passenger seat, everyone's like, yeah, but if I'm a passenger, I should be able to be on my phone. And I said, I can't disagree that it would be an inconvenience because we've all gotten so
Right.
used to these phones. But I feel like if we're really, really, really wanting to save lives and we can't take the human element of somebody picking that phone up, I compare it to the seatbelt law. So seatbelts have been the law here in Iowa since the mid 80s.
Yeah.
Yet 40 to 45% of the people that die in car crashes over the last 3 or 4 years, somewhere in that vicinity or that percentage, 40 to 43% of those people were not wearing a seatbelt. So we could put a law into place, but it's still only as good as the person that's behind the wheel to take the time to buckle up and so on and so forth. So it's kind of the same way with distracted driving. Yes, we are out there enforcing it heavily. We're trying to do our best, but it's still as good as that person. When it comes to distracted driving, I tell people really driving in general is probably one of the most dangerous things that any one of us does on any given day. If we're driving to work or you're driving to school, whether it be, 3 miles or it be 50, 60 miles, driving is just a dangerous task. So I feel like we need to not take that for granted. And I kind of use the term, we need to put the driving back into driving.
Right.
And I tell young kids that all the time, like whatever's going on in your life really doesn't matter if you don't get from point A to point B safely. And it's one of those violations that it's not like a seatbelt, right? If you're not wearing your seatbelt and you crash your car, you're not going to probably kill me. You're going to only
Right.
hurt, injure, or kill yourself. Where distracted driving, you cross the center line and you could hit an innocent motorist head on. So it's just one of those things that affects so many people that we know it's a problem. It's going to continue to be a problem. It's about $170 fine. We hope not to get to that point, right? We tried to do a ton of education prior to that, just to educate the public in hey, it's coming and it's going to be a $170 citation, and nobody wants to have that taken out of their own monthly personal budget. So
after talking with you last year about this, I went out and I got one of those phone clips that actually has the suction cup, goes right to the windshield. Yep. And before the car goes into gear, if I need the GPS, which I'm kind of OCD about that anyway, because I like to know how far away it is and stuff, then I plug the destination in, and that's running before I start to move.
Right.
That's directly from our conversation.
Nice.
Because before...
And what did it cost you? $20, $25 for a holder? I mean, yeah, right.
Yeah,
they're inexpensive.
Yeah, it wasn't even
People always talk about that too. Like, oh, then I just got to go spend money on that. I'm like, you walk into a convenience store, you're going to drop about the same amount of money in a convenience store as what you would to get a phone holder for your car that's going to make it safe for you to operate.
Right. And anymore, a lot of these cars have like voice to text and or speaking for commands.
For sure.
So let's say that I wanted to play music on Spotify. I just say it out loud.
Right.
And it does it.
Yes.
There's not, it's not.
You don't really have to.
I don't have to punch the buttons anymore.
Correct. Yeah.
And or if I need to make a call, and again the hands-free call, I can just say it.
Right.
Call,
right.
and it does. And I've never touched the phone.
Right. Yep.
So that, and my eyes haven't left, because I know we talked about this last time. It was something that was told to me a long time ago, that anytime you are not looking at the road, the car doesn't have a driver.
Correct.
It is,
which is scary.
Yeah.
If you start now thinking about what we just said, the number of people that are distracted and being a problem you talked about kind of off there of seeing people at stoplights all the time. Now imagine how many people are quote unquote, like you just said, not driving because their eyes are not looking straight ahead. You know, some people ask, well, how can you tell? And I tell people, I say, when you're driving down the road, just look at the people that you're meeting. Do you see the whites of their eyes, or are you only seeing like their eyelids because their eyes are downward or some other direction, obviously, other than straight ahead? It's not really a hard thing to tell whether or not somebody's focused, looking ahead down the road like they should be.
Yeah, and drifting in lanes on the interstate all the time. I see it all the time. Last week, I almost got hit because somebody was drifting over, and I gave a little bump on the horn, and I looked over and got the phone like this, as if that's helping.
Right. Oh, and it's not uncommon for our people to be cruising along on the interstate, in the right lane in a fully marked State Patrol squad car, and somebody goes by them on their phone and doesn't even have a clue that they just passed a fully marked police car, because they're so focused on that phone, and it's just such a dangerous thing. That's why I feel like it might get to the point where we have to take that away. Our terminals or our computers that are in our squad cars are actually that way, to where after 20 miles an hour, they're locked down. The only thing I can see is a GPS system that shows where officers are at, but there's no access to anything else. It literally blacks everything out. And I'm afraid that that's where we're going to have to go with this, just because cell phones have been, in everybody's hand or pocket for so long that, sooner or later, I think it's something that's going to catch up with you. If you're one of those that doesn't abide by the law and wants to be looking at your phone going down the road, it may not happen today, may not happen tomorrow or next week or next year, but eventually, when is that going to catch up to you? And, and just how quickly useless information, I guess I'm going to say, on a cell phone could change somebody's life, right? Whether it be somebody that you affect or even yourself, right? You go to prison because you're sitting on a phone and negligent and hit and kill somebody, or even just have to live with that in your conscience, is something that, I feel like has to be addressed, and really, hopefully we can encourage people to really think about that end of it, I guess. Not so much the $170 fine. Some people are like, I'll pay the $170, but it's more what could happen type of thing.
I'm waiting for the time where I can have that amount of cushion, and I say $170, I don't care.
Right.
I'm not there yet.
Right. Yeah. Me neither. Still, I don't know that I'll ever be there, but yeah, I get where you're coming from there.
Are you looking to grow your business or bring new jobs and investments to Southwest Iowa? Advance Southwest Iowa Corporation is the economic development organization for all of Pottawattamie County. Advance connects entrepreneurs, innovators, and established companies with resources, incentives, and strategic support to launch, expand, and thrive right here in our region. From site development to small business programs and community partnerships, Advance Southwest Iowa helps build a stronger local economy. Visit advancesouthwestiowa.com to learn more and get involved. On Pottawattamie County Routes, we explore the places that make our region home and the people who keep them connected. That is why we are proud to feature Marnie Elkhorn Communications, your local communications provider serving Marnie, Elkhorn, Walnut, Avoca, and other Southwest Iowa towns with high-speed fiber internet, reliable phone service, and TV options built for rural living. With real local support and unlimited data plans, you get speeds up to 1 gig to work, stream, and stay in touch with family and neighbors. Visit metc.net to learn more and get connected today. There's something else that is on the books. I don't know. I don't think it's a law yet. Isn't there talk of the tint on the windows being allowed to be a little darker than they are now?
That's correct. So here in Iowa, currently as it sits, you're allowed to have 70% tint on your windows, which means you have to allow 70% of the outside light to transmit through your windows. The proposed that I also believe is kind of like the speed limit increase. I believe that has been pushed out of the legislature and is waiting to be signed by the governor. It is going to allow motorists to have 50% tint, which allowing 50% of the light through instead of 70. So it's been something that's been talked about. It's been tried to get pushed through in the past. And, I think one thing to remind motorists when it comes to that, that is only your side windows. We're starting to see more and more people where their entire front windshield is tinted. And just kind of let everybody know, if you look at your front windshield glass about 4 to 6 inches down, there is it's called a AS1 line. And it's just a little hash mark on each side of your front windshield. That is the lowest you can do any tint. Anything below that is illegal. And to my knowledge, there's no state that allows any front windshield tint. So it's one of those things, that it's definitely a worrisome law for us. Not only from an officer safety standpoint, I think a lot of people perceive it as just an officer safety standpoint. Like, oh, I understand why the tint law's in place. It's for you guys' safety. Well, yes, I think there's probably some of that, but then I take it a step further when I talk to people with tint and I say, hey, if you didn't have tint on your windows, would you wear your sunglasses at 10 o'clock at night? And they kind of look at me like I'm crazy. And I'm like, well, no, why would you put your sunglasses on at 10 o'clock at night? And I said, isn't that kind of what you're doing at night when you have tinted windows, So it's definitely going to make people, if they choose to put that tint on their windows, take that extra 2 or 3 looks to make sure, if you're looking through that dark tinted glass and it's at night, to make sure that somebody isn't coming, that you don't miss somebody. Because obviously it does limit your vision a little bit. So that's a concern that I guess we'll just have to navigate as we move forward with it if it does pass and go into law.
Any indication at all of why the supporters wanted that? Why was that even introduced?
I don't know. There's a lot of people. There's all kinds of excuses out there or reasons. I had one lady tell me that it increased the resale of her car when she went to resell it because of the window tint. And I said, I'm pretty sure there's not a dealership that's giving you $1 more because your windows are tinted. There's some that, it keeps me cool. I spend a lot of time driving on the road and it doesn't get the inside as hot. So, I mean, there's probably some reasons out there to support it. Some of I feel like Midwestern states are a little more constricted as far as the amount you're not allowed to have as much tint or as dark a tint as some of your southern states. And obviously some of that may have to do with the hotter temps and the sunlight and those sort of things down there. But it's never been a law that we have tried to push or support, because we think there's so many other safety issues that go in with that, kind of like the speed that becomes a problem for all of us out there on the roads. So,
well, is there any other good news that's out there going on right now?
No, obviously we're heading into summer. The biggest thing with that is we call it the 100 deadliest days of summer. Families start traveling with kids getting out of school, and we just hope. I think currently we sit about 20 fatalities higher this year than we were a year ago at this time. Yeah. We talked up that record low back in 2025, and we're kind of tearing on that 25% increase right now compared to where we were. So, just stress for motorists to, pay attention, look up the roadway. One of the issues we see out here is Iowa road construction, right? So you're traveling 70 miles an hour on the interstate, and it gives you plenty of advance warning signs to let you know, hey, 3 miles down the road, we're going to be restricted to 1 lane. So now we're taking 2 lanes of Interstate 80 traffic or I-29 traffic and bottlenecking it down into 1 lane. And we see a lot of issues with people coming in just too fast, not realizing that the taillights are lit up ahead of them, and we're having crashes in those construction areas. So just stress motorists, pay attention to what's going on in your car. Look down the roadway ways. If you see a bunch of taillights lit up, probably a good indication something's going on, and maybe tap the cruise off and get ready to slow yourself down before you get there. Because once you get there, it's at 70 miles per hour, trying to get down to a sudden stop just isn't practical. So with any car, or no matter how good a driver you are. So just hopefully trying to limit, the amount of fatalities and crashes we have with this summertime coming on and kids being, out on the streets. That's the other thing. For those in the city settings or towns, obviously there's going to be a lot more kids out, maybe hours of the night that they wouldn't have been prior to that. So just obviously we have to increase our guard a little bit during the summer months.
Well, I'm grateful for all of the information, as always. Anytime I get a chance to talk to you, I feel like I learn a whole lot.
I don't know about that.
Well, no, seriously, I do, because it's good that you have the job that you do and that you're out there passing along this information, because talking about it, especially with the hands-free and things like that, that's safe. Learning about it from a real-world example, now what bad has happened.
Right.
So,
right. Well, and, as far as the hands-free and distracted driving and that, talking with our technical accident investigators that go to a lot of these, we are seeing more and more of those where the phone is in that holder that you talked about buying,
Right.
but it's playing a current basketball game, or it's got something going on it when we arrive at the scene and you have a driver that's deceased. Well, now you have to question why did that accident happen when you've got some video playing on your phone? So, you know, I gave you a lot of information, but like our technical accident investigators passed that along to me, that it's something that they're seeing as being a huge problem with the fatality accidents we're having. So, you know, hopefully we can, you know, just, it's fairly new. You know, you asked earlier about, you know, what those numbers look like. You know, I still think it's probably a little early to really tell, you know, where a fatality count's going to be. But, you know, with some more, unfortunately, enforcement has to be part of it, right? If there's there's no repercussion or there's no penalty for doing it, then people aren't going to think twice about it. So,
well, and as you said, the 3,600 over the last 6 months or however long it's been, when you consider that across the entire state of Iowa, it's not many.
It's not. No, you're 100%
really
right.
A tiny amount.
100% right.
Yeah,
you know,
so,
and we're going to do, from a state patrol standpoint, we're going to do some specialized projects throughout our area, you know, whether it be, you know, we're in a incognito vehicle, a bus, or they've had the Des Moines area years ago did one before it was true hands-free, where one of our guys was riding in a semi and they were going up and down the interstate, and they were sitting in a semi calling down people that were violating that law, having their phone, and then calling it to the officers that were sitting there waiting. So, you know, there'll be some of those projects that will kind of quote unquote sneak up on people. Mm-hmm. So, you know, you never know where we might be and what we might be in to try to enforce these laws, because we all know everybody can look up and see, oh, there's a fully marked patrol car. I'm going to set this phone down right now. You know, like you were talking, you're in a regular personal vehicle, and you have no problem seeing the amount of people on phones. So
there's a lot of them out there. Actually,
Yep.
I talked to somebody just recently that said that he said his boss knew that his window tints were way too dark. So if he saw someone in a car like yours, he'd just roll his windows down when he went by.
That works well until it's the middle of January or February, and we see that.
Yeah, probably know
like
something's up.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, listen, Ryan DeVault, thank you
Perfect.
so much.
Yes.
Grateful for your time as always.
Yes,
and
thanks, Todd.
I'm hoping we get a chance to cross paths again and learn a little bit more about everything that's going on.
There'll always be something new next year, right?
You bet. And we thank you for watching this episode of Pottawattamie County Routes. Do me a favor, if you would click that like button, or if you really like it, click the share button. And also don't forget to follow whatever platform you're on to be able to see this. That helps that algorithm be able to push this out even further, and we can get more people seeing the great information that Trooper DeVault just talked about. So that's going to wrap things up for today. My name is Todd Studer, and we will see you back here tomorrow morning.